All right, we are live. We are live. Yeah, yeah, we are live. So, Smith, a little piece before we get started. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Appreciate you guys jumping on. Coach Smith jumping on this evening. Just real quick, won't be too long, but I'm live on YouTube, Instagram, and IG real quick. And because I know we got NFL and everything happening still tonight and tomorrow, but I just wanted to get on real quick and make sure that I got a little time uh, since I wasn't able to get on like I regularly do on Saturday morning. Had some other things I had to take care of, but I didn't want to miss getting on at all over the weekend. And just briefly, just give an update on what's happening with Love the Game 24/7 and Coach Smith as we continue to move forward with this season, new NFL and college football season as the fall kicks off college, the new year in college, a new academic year, as well as high school sports, college sports, NFL, all centered and based on football kicking off um, the 24-25 season in all sports, and we always kick it off in the fall with football. And as I always say, recruiting is recruiting, no matter if you're male or female, no matter what sport you play. Right? It's all the same. There's things that you need to do as an athlete, as a parent of an athlete who is trying to pursue a dream of playing in college and earning themselves a scholarship to help pay for their education, as well as take advantage of today's name, image, and likeness opportunities for kids not only in college now, but a lot of states are allowing it for their high school athletes, which is awesome. So definitely appreciate you guys joining me for a brief live and excited as always as I shared about coming through my personal um, story of dealing with prostate cancer, and now Coach Smith is healthy, cancer free, hoping and planning on staying that way while I change some things that I do. Not that I need to do anything real drastic, but drastic enough to where I make sure I'm around to help and give great information and enjoy sports that I love, and mainly football and track and field and basketball. But I just want to give today's topic is, of course, athletic recruiting, a parental update. Um, this weekend, first let me say thank you guys for joining me on IG Live. Be sure you follow me on IG. Be sure if you haven't seen my other lives and other topics, you can get them on YouTube Live. So if you follow me at Love the Game 24/7 on YouTube, I got shorts and all that stuff on TikTok as well as on my Instagram, and you can get to the YouTube link, and I'll be sure to share this live tonight as well for people to follow up. I had an interview um, the last time I was live on Sunday as well with my former teammate who's also uh, that I had the blessing of playing college football with, Jason Thomas, who I had a great interview with last week, and he shared about his recruiting experience, how it started out with him being at Utah State on a Division I scholarship, and then how it was taken, because he had an injury in high school that he suffered, a nerve injury, and he didn't pass his physical when he was at Utah State, so they didn't honor the scholarship. So he came back home, you know. So if you didn't get the chance to hear some of that and you want to hear that great story, and he's been over in Finland for the past 20 years, and he even used his opportunity when he was uh, after having a serious injury, not thinking he would be able to play football again. He went over to Finland to uh, hey, one of my old teammates, Hudson Pillar, or I should say Miss Hudson Pillar, my sister. Appreciate you joining me. Um, but yeah, Jason shared about his way back to playing football and getting into college. Was he took some time to go to Finland when he was in college, trying to get back healthy again to see if he was ready to play. So if you want to hear that story about Jason and his great, wonderful story on his recruiting and how he got a Division II scholarship after having a Division I scholarship taken away due to injury coming out of high school, man, it's a great story, and hope it's inspiring and encouraging to some of you young athletes out there, no matter what sport you play. I'm going to come mainly with football, probably some track and field and basketball and things of that nature. But as I've always said and shared, recruiting is recruiting, for you young ladies, you young men, and for you parents out there. So this information is good for any sport, male or female. And take this advice that I've always have the pleasure and enjoyment of sharing. And I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you share it with somebody that needs some vital information and recruiting information. I also work with offense defense, and you can Google offense defense. We're going to be we're in the countdown of for these seniors in high school to play in the All Star game that will be happening in Dallas Cowboy Stadium this December, the 26th through the 29th. And then we'll start our camps um, across the country, from the West, Central to the East Coast. We'll be doing football camps with offense, defense to help teach young athletes and parents about the game and recruiting, mainly football. So that is something I have joined up with, and looking forward to doing more and sharing more about that. But I'm also a national scout or recruiter for offense defense to help young athletes, and I will be incorporating some of those things on my podcast live when we do camps and different things like that, and interviewing young athletes and sharing their experience. So to be an encouraging and also an example to help some other young athletes out there, whether you play football or whatever sport you play. So you definitely want to get this, view the, the podcast that I've shared on YouTube. Get out there, subscribe, follow, share. Get this information out to those who love sports, who may not realize that they can possibly use their love of sport, whatever sport it is: tennis, track and field, hockey, lacrosse. There's scholarship money out there, especially for young girls, for females. Track and field. You have to learn how to use your gifts and talents you've been blessed with to help you get an education and experience college athletics. Um, I just had an opportunity speaking with a young lady the other day in my financial aid industry field that I'm in. She ran track at University of Colorado. And so it was interesting in learning that about her, that she was a track athlete, distance, middle distance, and long distance um, athlete. And she talked about how, yeah, that helped pay for her education, being a track athlete, being a runner. And those things are important, how you use your gifts and talents. And as I've always shared, I have 25 years in financial aid experience, along with recruiting, being someone who played myself, following my older brothers, and also teaching those things to the young men that I coach in the state of Florida for 13 years, football. And then I did about 5 years with track and field in high school, at the high school level, and encouraging young athletes to use their academic and athletic skills to help, supplement their education. Man, it's real important, and it's even better in these days and times that we're in, with name, image, and likeness opportunities and social media, all these different great tools that we have to definitely promote and market yourself in a healthy way, right? And so definitely use those things to help promote you and get yourself seen, and be sure you have good video, good film in your sport. And so yeah, just want to just talk about those things, guys, and just how important it is, since we're kicking off the football season. There's a lot of young men out there, and whatever other sport that's going on. I know it may be some soccer getting ready to kick off. I know volleyball is happening right now as well. I've been watching some of that, peeking at some of the softball. WNBA is winding down. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, watching those young ladies and um, in Asia. Um, Definitely enjoy watching, some WNBA. I have my NFL stuff going on right now, and so definitely appreciate you guys, you know, joining and jumping in, and be sure even while we're live right now. So if you're watching this live or if you're watching this recording version, be sure you subscribe. Be sure you view. Right. Be sure you go back and watch interviews I've already done with Dexter Rogers, right, with Pat Terrell, um, former NFL commercial pilot and entrepreneur business owner. Uh, Coach Rogers has his own volleyball academy in the Naples, Florida area. Go back and look at those videos, the shorts, or and view the videos on YouTube. They're out there for your viewership for information, help you be informed. And like I said, I'm working with offense defense, and you can go to Google offense defense football camps, and you'll get a lot of information about that, information about your senior and how you can uh, nominate one of your, senior players in football to play in the All Star game that's coming up. If you want to nominate them, there's opportunities to do that and send in film and footage of your player. So there's those all star games out there that are going to be uh, coming down for some of these seniors. They take that opportunity, and for some young men to continue to showcase themselves to maybe get even better scholarship opportunities that they feel they deserve if they're not being highly recruited. So you got to do all those things that you need and have to do. And today I just want, I was the reason why I wasn't on Saturday morning like I normally do at 11:30 a.m. is I'm also certified referee. So I started refereeing, and boy, I tell you, it is different being on that side of the game. It's not an easy job. I've always known it not being an easy job for referees. Being a player, being a coach, they do their best. It's good that we do have some tools at the higher level to be able to, you know, make sure that they're making a right call. I have the blessing of working with some very successful and talented uh, men, young men, older men, brothers in the brotherhood of being referee that are mentoring me and teaching me and helping out. Even we got some young guys that have been refereeing for quite some time. This is my first year of doing it since I'm not coaching anything. So I just like to keep busy. So I was busy yesterday with a lot of Pop Warner, a lot of Little League football, 8U or 6U, 8U, 10U, and 12U, and 13U. I did about 6 games yesterday. Pretty much took up my whole Saturday. I tell you, I'm worn out from that, but I love every bit of it. Um, but it definitely sends up some alarm bells, of course, because we all know um, the concern and discussions that we have about some parents, trying to live vicariously through their their children or whatever the case, or being more serious about it than their own kids. And so you have to be very careful. So tonight I was just going to be talking about, how parents definitely need to be involved, especially if you have a junior or senior at this point in time. You definitely need to have some involvement. Needs to be some discussion. If you feel like you're a young athlete that's playing football right now, that I'm mainly talking about, but even if you have a young lady that's playing, basketball or volleyball, and you feel like you're not getting the exposure or the attention, the notoriety, you need to be sure that you're following up with your young athlete, mom and dad, that they're on their social media, not really pumping up themselves, but just following coaches, because I shared recently that every college coach in every college sport is on Twitter, and your young athletes needs to be making sure that they are following in their sport their position coaches, head coaches, grad assistants, recruiting personnel um, that's involved in those schools that they really like and enjoy. Okay. And they need to have some schools at every level, whether it's Division 1, Division 1 AA, FCS that we call it now, or Division 2 and Division 3, doesn't matter, or NAIA. which is another collegiate athletic association, as well as junior college for some of those who may have to do junior college because of not necessarily because of academics, maybe because you don't feel like you've had the opportunity to get playtime and different things for whatever reason while you were in high school. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit as well, a little bit later. I'm going to expound on that, on why some may have to do that. However, I just want to just be sure you remind you parents, you need to check in with your young athlete, okay, and be sure that they are posting, stats, highlights to these college coaches, not necessarily having those things go viral or social media, but using social media to keep in contact with college coaches for their sport. But I'm mainly, as I'm right now, I'm talking about football, but like I said, for any sport, you want to be sure that you're a young person, whatever platform they're using, like Huddle, you want to be sure that they are out there putting together good film, whether you're monitoring it because you know how to do it, parent, because I know there's some parents that are, maybe have a background in that or learned have some background or they're talking to the coaches about and learning about how to put good film out there for their young athlete to showcase their gifts and talents in their sport. And you need to make sure that they're doing that on a regular basis. It's a job. If you want the scholarships that you're looking for and you feel like you are a quality athlete, then you need to get your information out there to those coaches. It doesn't necessarily have to be something you have to go viral on TikTok and all those different things. Not saying that, there's nothing wrong with doing that sometimes, but you want to be careful that you're not really like bragging on yourself when you do those types of things. But when you're sending things to recruiters and scouts, that's a whole different ball game because that's just going directly to that particular coach, and there should always be more than one person that you're following at a particular institution. There should be multiple people, from the head coach to the position coach, whether you're a defensive person to the defensive coach, or you're an offensive person with the offensive coach. But sometimes you got to figure out there may be an offensive coach that recruits your area, and you may be a defense person, and be rest assured that coach is aware of that, and him or her are aware of that, and they would pass it on to the respective person that's in your position, but they may not be recruiting your area. So you have to find out some of this. It takes some, some a little bit of work, which is going to pay off for you, young athlete. It's not always something mom and daddy can do. They should be assisting you and helping you as much as they can, but you got to take some of this on for yourself because this is you. If you really love the game 24/7, as I always talk about, then it won't feel like work to you. Okay, it won't feel like work at all, because this is something you love, okay? And you have to take personal responsibility and take some self initiative, and not be passive, okay? Passivity is not going to help you. You got to learn how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. If you're not somebody that's comfortable with talking all the time, then practice with somebody that you feel comfortable talking with about what you plan on saying to a scout or whatever that you're going to try calling, or you got a scheduled call with or something because they are interested in you and they want to get to know you as a person, as an athlete, and then they want to get to know who your parents are because then they're going to be talking to you about seriously making a commitment if they feel that you're the type of athlete that they want to represent their institution in your sport, right? At their university or college. So do some practice runs, do some practice interviewing, you know, just like you practice football, you practice basketball or baseball. Take some time and practice interviewing, practice what you're going to say, okay? Um, when you're being asked certain questions, because you got to be able to interview well. You watch enough of sports on TV and you see how some guys don't always do well and you see how some guys they do well. Um, and so you got to take some time and practice. If you want to make yourself marketable for name, image, and likeness opportunities, hey, it's a great opportunity. Sometimes I sit back after watching me do my own podcast. I'll go back and review some of my videos to see how well I did and try to figure, hey, I need to brush up here. I need to take time. Maybe I need to talk a little slower. I don't want to always keep saying certain things like okay, even though I know I do sometimes, because sometimes I want it to be just come across as organic, just real, just straight and talking like I would talk to someone, like I'm talking to an athlete, how we talk, as athletes, sometimes how we speak and how we say things. And that's cool. But sometimes, you want to make, when we do these uh, live videos and we want people to go back and view them and have huge viewership, we want to be sure that it's something that's going to that's interesting to people. And I know there's millions and millions of athletes out there. So I know some things that I'm speaking of is definitely um, something that people are interested in and want to hear. Okay. So, um, but I appreciate you guys once again joining Coach Smith with Love the Game 24/7 podcast, right? Where we say you got to love the game 24/7, to get where you want to be in your sport. So I appreciate you guys joining me on Coach Smith 27 on IG and Love the Game 24/7 on YouTube. And I'm live on Facebook for some of you parents. But as I said, you parents got to be sure you stay on top of your young athlete and getting um, connected with these coaches on Twitter because that's where they all are. They're on all social media platforms because they're going to be monitoring your young athlete to see that they're being responsible with their social media to make sure that there is somebody that they want to continue to recruit and be sure that they're being responsible about how they're conducting themselves on social media. And also want to see that if there's somebody that's, you know, way over cocky or whatever their personality may be. And sometimes, it's cool. There's nothing wrong with you sharing, if you had a great game or a great outing, and you might show it's not just you making plays, scoring touchdowns, but maybe you made a great block. Because sometimes as a running back, I would tell a young guy if he was a running back like myself, you don't want to always just show you running touchdowns and scoring touchdowns. Of course, that's great, but I want to show footage of me catching the football. I want to show footage of me making great blocks for my other teammates and springing them for a long touchdown. So I want to highlight, you know, how I you know, did a great job, not just for making it all about me scoring touchdowns, but hey, I'm a teammate. I'm a team player. Just as much as I want my teammates to block for me, to spring me for a big run or a long touchdown or a block to where I can catch a pass and score and make a big play. I want to be sure I show footage being an all around type of running back that I can run, block, catch, right? That I understand the game, okay, that I'm always in tune and involved. And so when a recruiter comes and watch me, I want them to see that I'm somebody that knows and is aware of what's going on, what my mindset that I'm in, depending on what the game is. The game has ebbs and flows, ups and down moments, momentum changes. They want to see how I respond and how I react. And sometimes they need to see you get mad because angry, and where you can control that and it makes you perform and raise your level of play because you have controlled anger, because that's what sports is all about. Sometimes you need to have controlled anger, and yes, you can have controlled anger, okay, and not get all emotional. Sometimes you have to tone your emotions down somewhat so you can be focused mentally, because if you overexert your emotions too much, you may not perform as well as you should. Some people might hyperventilate or get themselves so worked up that maybe they can't even get on the field sometimes, and you have to do your best to be careful. And that's why I tell you, you got to also take care of your mental health as well. But when you're putting out videos, you want to show your strengths, right? All your strengths, and even if you show some weaknesses and show how you bounce back. Yeah, I had a bad game here or whatever. Um, when a scout or recruiter is coming to watch you, but then when they see, oh yeah, at this point in the game, man, yeah, he didn't have, he wasn't doing all that well. But man, when he came back in the second half, he must have either had a conversation with somebody, or he got himself settled down, or she got herself settled down and just got into her game or got into his game, and man, look how they just turned it around to help their team win. And then sometimes you also got to be careful you don't get too caught up in showing that wins or losses. Coaches want to know, if you're a young lady or a young man, that you have the potential to grow because of the type of person that you are and personality and your work ethic. Okay. So this is what we're saying when you go to camps and coaches meet you, and you got to start doing these things when you're young, in middle school, even late elementary, going into middle school. You have to go to these camps and start building relationships. And parents, you do the same thing when you take your kids to camps, right? And there's a time where you kind of sit back and you help push your kid out there to start speaking up for themselves. I remember my father doing that to me when I was in middle school. A situation came up, and my father was like, "Hey." I was still playing little league just before going into JV, and I was playing JV high school football. It was like coming up on my latter years of playing little league football. And I remember my father saying, I think I was in like sixth grade, and I didn't like what was going on where the coach was playing me. at a position that I didn't want to play. And because I was always a running back, and he wanted to move me to wide receiver because that's what my brother played for him, or my brother played for him. And I was like totally upset and was ready to quit. And my father's like, "No, you're gonna walk over there and you're gonna learn to grow up and go have a conversation." Now here I am, sixth grade, and this man telling me I'm gonna go over here and talk to this grown man, you know. But that's how my father was. It's like, you gotta start growing up, okay? Because he's like, "Hey, I may not always be here, you know, and but even still, you gotta learn how to speak up for yourself and go over there and have a conversation with the coach. Let him know how you feel. Be honest, And I did that, and it worked out, you know. And the coach eventually the next year moved me to running back and realized that he should have had me at running back and not just do that. And that's why I say sometimes as parents, why this is called, this specific show is about how sometimes parents need to handle things. My father didn't see where he needed to go over there and have a conversation with the little league coach. He wasn't all upset and angry with the coach, or threatening to the coach or anything like that, because I was upset because I wasn't playing the position I wanted to play. My father's simple answer was, "That's not my team, and you're not gonna quit because I don't raise quitters. You're gonna do whatever you have to do, work through it. But the other thing you need to do is stop pouting and go over there and have a conversation with him." He's like, I'm gonna be standing here. You walk over there and you have a conversation with your football coach and explain to him what the issue is, right?" And so I'm telling you, as I was refereeing games yesterday, I tell you, man, things have changed, and we as parents, we got to tone it down because we're not being that good of an example for our young people who are playing these sports. I don't care what sport it is. We hear all the talk about soccer to baseball, the favoritism, because it happens. Trust me, I know. I lived it myself. I dealt with it with my son, and just how my father dealt with me. And when it was time for me to have my son move on to another team, I just moved on to another team when he had his issue. Okay. And or when I saw some issues myself as a parent, you know, I had conversations with the coach. Um, and I did some of the same things with my son. Hey, talk to the coach yourself and see how it goes. And when it didn't, then hey, if I, then I felt like I needed to say something, I went and said something. And then the coach explained to me, and I was like, "Okay, coach, yeah, this is your team. I'm helping you. I'm even helping. I was even assistant coach, helping him. I'm like, I'm here to help you." He was showing favoritism to his son. He was the head coach. Um, and I just said, "Hey, we need to negotiate something here because it can't always be about my son, your son, and anybody else's son. It's about the kids, period. And we have to learn how to operate that, even when we're coaches and we're coaching our own kids and we're coaching other people's kids." So just to share that story, that's my whole thing, you know, of tonight, really just sharing that experience, man, being a referee and just seeing how, we had some very good coaches that conducted themselves, appropriately. Um, but then we had some ones, of course, that teetered on that line a little bit. For the most part, we had a lot of them that teetered on that line. The thing that was sometimes it was disappointing where how um, uh, some kids, most of the kids, I would say, yesterday were very respectful um, to one another, helping each other up. Of course, they talked a little bit of trash. There's a lot of bad language with some young kids that we need to clean up because, I'm not saying we weren't perfect. We did it too, and and the rest would deal with us, and we didn't cry about it. It was like literally, it was actually like we knew potentially there was a ref on that field that probably knew my mom or my dad and would say, "I heard little Jeffrey on the field saying some stuff, um, you know, and you might need to have a conversation with him." So those are the type of things that were happening when I was a kid, and it would get corrected real quick. And it was like, don't embarrass the family by saying things inappropriate out there on that football field that you have no business saying. Keep your mouth closed, play the game. Of course, there's a little trash talking, but don't be rude or disrespectful talking about somebody's mama and all that kind of stuff. When we growing up, jawing and cracking jokes and all that stuff, as we called it. Um, but yeah, it wasn't parents getting mad because you were corrected by a referee or a coach, right? It was that community of everybody saying, I better not hear um, one of my coworkers who's a referee out there saying they heard you saying such and such or talking a certain way. right? And I'm going to sit up here and tell you like we were perfect. Yeah, we did some bad things. Absolutely, we all did. But boy, when we got corrected by an adult, we respected that adult and we didn't say anything back in most cases. Those ones who did do that had a hard way to go. Okay. To me, today is a lot more prevalent with kids. With some of the kids, is even as a referee last night, feel like they always have to say something back, and they should just listen unless you ask them a question and they need to say something back. But when you're talking to them as a ref and you're giving them some advice and trying to help them, I had a lot of kids that said, "Thank you, ref." You know, probably say 80%, almost 90% of the kids would say that. But then sometimes they would speak out of turn when nobody said anything or they shouldn't have said anything or they're questioning the referee. And it's like, man, as kids when I was growing up, I'm not saying we didn't think about wanting to question the referee or we questioned that a call or we got on the sideline huffing and puffing. Um, but man, if one of the coaches saw you saying something to a referee when we were kids, man, that next day, or matter of fact, the day of the game, you might be running laps around the field. The same day. Matter of fact, you might be running some laps around the track during the game for saying something inappropriate or just talking back to a referee or saying something to the ref and you ain't having the business saying anything to the ref. Today, man, it's like totally different, way different, and that's what we got to get back to that type of respect to help the game, be enjoyable. I was supposed to be on a not podcast but a Zoom conference talking about some of this very stuff that I'm talking about today about why some kids don't want to play sports because some kids, man, are embarrassed by a parent or family member acting a certain way, um, or they're losing their love of the game, and we don't ever want that to happen in any sport because I hear that, and I'll share with you here in a minute about another reason why I want to discuss this with a young man that plays high school football, but he also referees on the weekends for the Pop Warner League, but we have to do better as coaches, as parents, as an organization for little league sports. I saw it in baseball with my sons growing up. Sometimes with the favoritism, um, and I just feel as adults we have to do better than that. We shouldn't be showing favoritism. Okay, we have to be very careful about favoritism, not necessarily with our own kids, but even with some other kids that these kids have come up with me, and you may have a kid that just because they didn't come up with you may show up and is a pretty decent ball player. Or even if they aren't that decent a ball player, if they're putting time in and coming to practice and they're okay, at some point in time they need to get on that field. They need to get on that volleyball court or basketball court or football field. They deserve that for making the sacrifice to show up just like everybody else has, who may be better than them and plays a lot more, and that's fine. That's understandable. But you can't always get so caught up in the wins and losses. I know everybody wants to win championships and all that, but you should be more concerned about teaching the game of football, the love of whatever sport it is, and not so caught up on, I got to win. I'm trying to make a name for myself as a coach. If you make a name for yourself by being sure that kids love the sport, they still love the game and appreciate the game because of how you coach and make sure everybody is getting themselves some time on the field, getting their opportunity to get better. Because sometimes some people aren't going to get better until they get more time in a game situation. There are a lot of kids who man turn the corner by the time they get to high school or whatever, and you just wouldn't realize. I remember my youngest son; he was going through a growth spurt. I mean, man, he couldn't hit the ball out of the infield, and we took him to the pediatrician and she said, yeah, he's going through a growth spurt and he probably need to sit out playing baseball this season because he was, for some reason it bothered him a little bit more. And he was tall for his age. But that next year, as he grew into his body, he was hitting home runs. He was hitting triples, doubles, and even his baseball coach was like, man, this is like night and day compared to when he played the last time and how he could barely hit the ball out of the infield half the time. He comes back the next year because he finally grew and matured into his body, right? But that was between elementary and middle school. And man, when he came back that next year after missing baseball, he was slapping home runs like nothing. Speed picked up. He was uh, hitting the ball, in the outfield and getting doubles and triples. And hitting home runs. My youngest son Zach. He was a heck of batter as he got older in the high school. Um, I mean, he had a nice swing, like a Darryl Strawberry swing on him because he was a lefty like Darryl Strawberry. Um, and so, sometimes you got to be careful as coaches that you got to be aware of some things like that sometimes, right? And it's not because sometimes it can come off like you're punishing a young lady or a young boy, young man. And so, but definitely when it comes to the little league sports, man, we have to definitely do better as parents, as coaches, as an organization, with who you're allowing to coach um, these young people and inspiring and making impressionable, um, uh, images to our young kids, to our young people. That's why when my kids were playing, I knew I was going to coach. I don't care what sport they were playing. I was going to be a coach. I was going to be involved because I didn't just want anybody coaching my kids. Okay, all right. And you as a parent, you may not know the sport. Doesn't mean you can't help out in some sort of way, But I just want to be close, so I can monitor, and see, and even get on some coaches about showing favoritism, not necessarily dealing with my kid, but other kids. And we'll have to remind them, hey, we got to get this young person in. We got to get this other kid in the game and give them some opportunity to play as well. So a lot of times I would be that type of coach, to hold everybody accountable, to hold all of us accountable as coaches, to be sure we leave a lasting impression on these young minds that we got the privilege of making an impression on and making an impact. It's going to be a lifelong situation. So that's why as a coach, I made a point to be involved. Um, and as I shared my story, when my father had me go tell Coach Ingram when I was playing Mighty Mike football to, hey, this is not my team, son. Everything is not going to always go the way you think it should go or how you want it to go or like you want it to go. One thing my father used to say to me, and I even shared it with my kids and kids that I coach on a regular. My father used to say to me when I was a running back and when I got the opportunity to play and I felt like I wasn't given the opportunity a lot of times. My father would tell me, you have to make sure you be the best blocker, you be the best pass catcher, you be the best teammate you can be. And he would tell me, the first chance you get to run the football, you run that football like it's your last time getting an opportunity. Like you may not get another opportunity. And so he would tell me, just make sure when you run that football the first time, you do everything you can to show what you're made of, that you deserve more opportunity to run the football. And so he said, you run it like it's your last time that you might ever run the football again. And I took that to heart, when he shared that with me, that it really stuck with me, even all my life and in other things that I've done, jobs and other things that I've done, man. Make sure you do you do top level stuff, that you leave a lasting positive impression on people. And I remember when he shared that with me, he just said, son, you just got to understand it. Life ain't fair, and you do your best to make sure when you get the opportunity that you're fair. But one thing he just said to me is, man, hey, when you run that football, you run it like it's your last time. And boy, I tell you, I took that to heart, man, so much. And I can remember there were games where I carried the ball maybe once or twice, and one of those times was a touchdown. And I remember doing it again later on, just remembering that. And it was a game, man, where I scored the only touchdowns in the game when I was playing Little League, like the 3 touchdowns. I ran the ball 3 times and ran 3 touchdowns because remembering him telling me, you run the football, man, as hard as you can, and you make sure you show what you're made of. And I remember on one of those touchdowns, I ran that ball and broke probably like 10 tackles. It was crazy. I mean, I have video of it. I need to find it um, in my mom's house, but I remember I broke like 10 tackles on one play. And we were playing a turkey bowl, what we call a turkey bowl at the end of the season in November, where a team from Georgia, this little league team from Georgia, would come down, and we would alternate. They would come down one year, the next year we would go up, and they were, and we would stay with families with those teams that we're going to play against, and they would come down and stay with us, kind of get us to build relationships. And I remember guys that I played with from those teams in Georgia that went on to play college, where we kept in contact, you know, and we're doing well with some of the kids. So that was cool having that turkey bowl when we were kids. and building those relationships through football. And it was always during Thanksgiving holiday. And and so yeah, I remember man breaking like 10 tackles in a game for one of them 3 touchdowns I ran. And I remember not get I didn't even get the player of the game. It happened to go to our quarterback because he had dealt with he was out there playing, didn't realize that his appendix had burst, and he had to go get emergency surgery. Anthony Cohen's good brother, good homeboy I played with back in the day in my Lakewood Junior Spartans back in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I remember I cried because I didn't get the trophy. My dad was like, "Hey, that's just the way it is, man. You know, you just got to keep working hard until you earn that respect um, of in your game." And I did. You know, later, it helped me build character and helped me not always look for the accolades, even though whether I played well, really well, or I felt like I played the best, but or not. But you go back and look at that film, I always want to make an impact. And he always said that, just make an impact, do something, make something happen for your team. You can't always cry about that. And so as parents, we got to learn to have those types of conversation. And if we have those types of conversation, it'll be less, it'll be more kids loving the game 24/7, less drama, less issues in little league sports where kids will sometimes like, I don't even want to play anymore because my mom is acting crazy or my dad's acting crazy, or my coach is crazy or my coach is not fair. He's not giving me opportunity. I know it happens, right? I know it happens. I've seen it too many times, and and enough is enough. That's where I'm at with everything. Enough is enough. We're adults, and we need to act like adults. We need to be a good example for our young kids. We need to be honest with them that hey, you may not always get recognized like you probably should have, but that shouldn't deter you or stop you from loving the game 24/7. And it's a good segue for me to go into this next um, topic where as I shared, there was a young man that plays high school football here at Michael Jordan's high school, Laney High School. And he referees on the weekends in Part Warner to make a little extra money. And he's a real good kid. And as a matter of fact, it's his grandmother, I think it is, or aunt, I believe it's his grandmother that's over the referees for Part Warner. She's one of the directors over the referees here in North Carolina. And so, like I said, I had the pleasure of refereeing like all day, just trying to get caught up since I had my surgery and everything to get back out there and ref some games. And like I said, it's not easy. And so this young man, he and I were talking before one of the games started, and I just had a conversation with him. And he was just sharing with me because the kid looked good. I mean, I looked at him, I could tell he was probably like a running back or a linebacker type player. He had some because we had our shorts on, our referee shorts, and and the kid had some good sized legs on him, um, calves. He was built. I can tell this kid, man, he looked good. And I saw where he had a scar on his knee, and he shared that he had ACL surgery after his sophomore year playing football. But he's feeling very confident in his knee and everything, and he felt good, healthy, and strong, ready to go. And and so I asked him, well, how's your season going and whatnot? And he was like, it's not going too well. He's like, I'm the second string running back, but I hadn't seen any time on the field yet, really, at all. It's been mainly the starting running back. And he's like, yeah, he's pretty good, but I think I'm pretty good too. Um, and so, he shared with me he hadn't really played at all. I'm like, you hadn't really played at all? And I'm like, what year are you? He's like, well, I'm a senior. And I said, you haven't played really in any game. He's like, no, I really haven't played it. I don't understand why. And I'm kind of like, not want to play anymore because the coach is not playing me for whatever reason. And I asked him just straight up, man, are you a problem? Or he seemed like to be a humble kid, quiet kid when we met him. Um, and he was just like, oh yeah, he's like, I go to practice every day, man. I work hard. I feel like I deserve some playtime, and I'm not getting any playtime. And so I just shared with him. I'm like, okay, so you're at practice every day. You're not a problem. You got your grades. He said, oh yeah, I got my grades. He said, I think I'm just probably gonna go to school or whatever. I'm not sure if I'm gonna get an opportunity to play football like I would like to in college. And so I said, man, let me tell you something. Don't ever let somebody, even a coach, kill your love for the love of your sport. And because we're talking football, I said, don't ever let a coach kill your dream or your hopes and dreams of playing football. I said, now a lot of times as coaches, we do dumb stuff. Okay, we're not perfect. Coaches do dumb things, And I just share with him, I share with him, hey, I've been a coach myself, high school coach, and I know that if you're coming to practice every day and you're making a sacrifice to be out there just like everybody else is, right? And like I don't know what type of player he is. Okay, I don't know you know how good this young man is. I'm going to find out because there's a young man on his team that I know real well that I've been helping with his recruiting who plays tight end. Um, and so I'm going to follow up with the young man that I know and ask about it and see what he tells me. But I told this kid straight up, do not let another man or person. Um, what's up, pal? I see you, my man. Thanks for joining. And but you don't ever let another person kill your dream or love for a sport. You pursue it until you pursue it, not because of you're not getting playtime or because this coach is not treating you fairly or whatever the case may be. Okay, you figure it out, right? I told him, I said, I told him straight up, I said, you need to go have a conversation with that coach. And I told him exactly what you need to say to that coach. Coach, and I said, if you don't cause any problems, you need to be straight up with him and say, Coach, I don't cause any problems. I come to practice every day. I sacrifice my time to be here just like everybody else. I know I'm not the starter, okay? And I don't have to be the starter, but I know because of I make the same sacrifice everybody else does because they're like in the fourth game of the season, and this kid hadn't touched the game field. And to me, that's concerning. And see, as a parent, it would be very concerning to me of why my child hasn't gotten on that football field. Now, as a parent, just as I was telling this kid, this young man, I said, you need to go have a conversation with that coach first yourself. Now, you need to make your parent aware of it. And I'm sure the parent is. Okay. And as a parent, you can't, um, when the time comes for you to have a conversation with that coach, you need to have it. All right. And if that coach um, isn't receptive, then you may have to go over his head. But as long as you gave him the opportunity initially, after your son or after your daughter went and had a personal conversation, okay? Because I'm telling you right now, people, I know there are coaches who do some stuff that I do not like and is not right. All right, I'm just gonna be 100, like we like to say in the sports world. I'm just gonna be real. I'm gonna be straight. There are some coaches who do stuff like that, and it's not right. I'm gonna call it what it is, plain and simple. Because if this young man, like I said, is taking his time, like everybody else is, and making sacrifices in the weight room when they need to be in there, doing all the things that the coach is requiring him to do. If he's done that, right? Because our best players don't always follow through with stuff, all right? And we still give them opportunity, and that's not right not to give this young man opportunity. So I share with this young man, and I told him I will follow up with him, with the young man that I know to see, and as a matter of fact, I'm gonna be at their game this Friday night because it's a big game between Ashley High School here in Wilmington and Laney, Michael Jordan's high school. Um, Appreciate you guys joining me on IG. Coach Smith, love the game 24/7. But I'm going to follow up with this young man. I'm going to watch this game this Friday when Laney, Michael Jordan's high school, plays against Ashley here in Wilmington this Friday. I'm going to see, as this young man told me that he hasn't been on the field, and this is going into the fourth or fifth game of the season. And if this young man has made all the sacrifices like everyone else has, and he hasn't been able to set foot on the game field, I told him he need to have a conversation with the coach this week, and and then have a conversation with his parent. He need to let his parents know what's been going on, make sure they're aware that he's going to have a conversation with him by himself personally, and he'll follow up with them on how this conversation goes, and then we'll watch and see if he gets in the game and get some opportunity to play. Okay. And I told him if you don't, then the next conversation needs to be is, hey coach, my parents said they would like to meet with you and have a discussion and like to know when can you be available. Okay. It's not necessarily about him getting abundance of playtime. But if my child who's had hopes and dreams of playing college, and I know they got potential opportunity, because all that young man needs is film. And other things we got to understand. Some of these coaches have to understand. I know everybody wants to win state championships. Everybody want to go to the playoffs, and those things are good and rightly so. Okay, And some kids have been there. This young man has been at this high school since his sophomore year. And I asked him, why haven't you transferred? And he said he thought about it. And the reason why he thought about it, because he didn't know anybody like myself. That's why I tell you that Love the Game 24/7 is important. And people need to get information. You need to follow and subscribe. You need to view this, all the topics that I talk about, and get it to those people who you know, because there's a lot of kids out there like this young man that are stuck, or young ladies in their sport that are stuck. And they need some guidance on how to deal with some difficult situations sometimes, and even some good situations when they're being recruited, not just bad situations, all situations. But this young man just shared with me, and I just said, it just hurt my heart to hear him say he hadn't played yet. And that's disturbing to me that this coach feels like it's okay that he hasn't put this young man in the game at all this year. He's a senior coming back off ACL surgery his sophomore year. And I can tell he's been putting in work because he looks the part. And that's one thing I've always said to you athletes, whether you male or female, when you get recruited, you need to look the part. You need to look like you work out. You need to look like you're an athlete. You need to look like you're dedicated. And this young man looks the part. And because I'm looking at him like, man, this good looking kid. I'm like, man, you play ball, huh? I could just tell just looking. And he's like, oh yeah. And so I just shared with him, man, you go have that conversation. I'll follow up with you. Tell me how it goes. If you need some more guidance on how to deal with that situation, or if your parents need some guidance on how they should deal with that situation, because parents need to know you can't go in there ballistic, all ballistic and crazy. Even though you might feel like you have a right. In some instances, you might, but where's it gonna get you? Not far. You got to go in there calm and peaceful and ready to talk. Okay, and then depending on how things go, you got to start putting a plan together. And as I shared with the young man, I said, hey, you just need film. And like I said, some of these coaches can't get so caught up in wanting to win championships all the time. I think you should be more wanting to win championships about getting kids in school who have the opportunity and ability to play at the school level. Because when you start putting people in, young men and young women in school in the sport that you coach, they're going to be people that aren't getting that at their high school, and they're going to transfer to your high school because you care about helping your young people, fulfill their dream of going to the next level and playing some sort of college sport and getting a scholarship to help pay for their education, right? And so, you know, not saying you can't, you put down your aspirations as a coach to get championships. No, that's not what you're doing. You're building young men or young women to be at a top level. And when you do that, man, you're going to draw some of the best kids in your area that want to play for you. That won't be hard at all. We did that at Clearwater Central Catholic at CCC back home in Clearwater, Florida, where I had the blessings and pleasure of starting to help turn that program around to be where it is today, one of the top in the state. And probably, I believe, it should be one of the top in the nation because they beat a school that was ranked in the nation in their division with ease, that was ranked like 23rd in the nation back in Florida. So when you as a coach are developing young men or young women, whatever it is, whether you're a female coach or a male coach in whatever sport you're coaching, when you're doing that for kids and parents and being approachable and being um, that coach is going to go to the wits end for your player to make sure that you can do all you can and be straight up with them and genuine with them and tell them the truth. I don't know if you can leave it to the college coaches to tell them what level they can play at, not you as a head coach in high school. Leave that to, even though you may have played, and there are some kids that we can know that we know hands down can play at the next level. There's certain kids we know that we just know. There are some. Then there are some we're not sure that if they put the work in or if they develop, man, they could probably be something. They need to go to camp to help them develop in their position or realize or help learn what position they really should be trying to play, right? And some coaches will move kids just because what they want, and you're really not thinking about what's best for them because the colleges may want to see them at one position and you got them at another position. You got to think about that young lady, that young man that's trying to get recruited, that's getting some attention, that's getting some love at whatever level they're getting it from. It doesn't matter, but you got to let them play in a position where they're going to play at college and have an opportunity. That's not putting aside your championship aspirations. Give that young lady, young man, an opportunity to play that position where they're going to play in college, or where somebody or college needs to see them at that position. Coach Davis would do that at CCC at Clearwater Central Catholic when he was the head coach, and I'm sure his son-in-law, who's taken over that program, Coach Harvey, who's a national champion from the U from University of Miami Hurricanes, who won the part of that team that won the last national championship from University of Miami. I know he's doing that. I know what type of person he is. He was a former strength and conditioning coach at Florida State. He was a D coordinator at the Division II level. So he's been around the game for a long time. So I know what he's all about, and had the pleasure of coaching with him. So many coaches need to take that same approach. What's best? And like I told this young man, you need to make sure you go have a conversation with your coach, and don't be scared to sit down and have that conversation with the coach, and don't let him kill your love for the game of football or whatever sport. It's not right. You know, it's not good that this young man hasn't been on the field, because he's left an impression in this young man that's not good. And I didn't like it. And as I shared with him that, hey, because I used to think, man, I got to get 1,000 yards rushing, this and that. Man, that's all great and fine and well, but just because you get 1,000 yards don't mean you're a top tier player. A lot of times it depends on what level or division of football you're playing. Okay, and it doesn't mean just because you're playing at a level of football that you're not a top level guy or young lady either. You know, um, that's why it's important for you to go to these camps, so you can match up with some people that they may come from a area where they're looked at as some top tier in volleyball or soccer or whatever the case, and you go to a camp and you match up with them and you deal with them. You show you have the skill, and that ability to match up against some of these so-called top tier high school kids that are coming out, and you were able to, that's how I got recruited here, because I went down to University of Miami and turned it out against all those guys who were top recruits for Miami, and got myself on the map, right? Back in the Jimmy Johnson days. All right. And so it's not always, you don't always have to have all that to get recruited. Okay. You just need to get some film to show your potential. Right. And you don't have to start. I mean, it's great if you're a starter. I mean, that definitely tells a recruiter something. But hey, when you're deep with talent, some of these coaches know, man, yeah, you're from a school where y'all are deep with talent. So I understand why you're not starting, because that's what it's going to be like in college in some cases. Right. You might be second, third string, but if you probably were somewhere else, you might be a starter. So that's why you got to be real careful about where you go to school, and make sure you get on that field and have some film. Especially if you're trying to get to the pro level and you think you're good enough, and you have that potential, man, it's just coaches want to see you have that potential, young lady, young man. And so parents, you got to make sure, as I said before, make sure that your young person is on their social media platforms, following these coaches and sending their stuff out on a regular basis, right? If your kid is not you don't feel like they're being fairly treated, you don't go in there like a bat out of hell. You go in with a peaceful person. It's not your team. You're not trying to coach that coach's team. You're not trying to control his team, but you do have a concern about that young man or that young lady that's helping his program or her program, right? Because even with you out there being at practice every day, you're helping your other teammates get better, and they're helping you get better. We're helping each other. And so it's only deserving that you don't wait till the last game of the season to put that young person in. That's a bunch of crap. I'm just gonna say it just like that. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook and IG. I'm gonna tell you straight up, that's a bunch of nonsense. You don't wait till the last game of the season for a senior that's been busting his tail, or she's been busting her tail, and you put them in just for a little bit, the last game of the season as a senior, and that's your send off, right? That's your wonderful send off. That's you showing some wonderful thankfulness. I'm being sarcastic because it's not. It should be disgraceful, and you should be called out for it if you do something like that as a coach. Because I would, you know, that's not how you handle business. That's not how you help a young person or anybody keep a love for the game 24/7. We as coaches can't, ask our young people to, do it for the program and integrity, and you're not somebody that's, showing integrity. I don't know if anybody got comments or questions, um, but definitely you can always do that while I'm on YouTube or Facebook Live. Um, um, and as I shared with this young man, somebody got a question here on my YouTube Live about covering freshman JUCO, or how JUCO players should move with limited time. That's a good question, but that was something I did share with this young man, that I want to tap into, is when I shared with him that, hey, because you don't have a lot of film or playtime, you may have to go the JUCO route. And his response to me was, "Oh, I thought that was for JUCO was for kids who just didn't have good grades." I'm like, "No, it's not." And Eric Thomas on my YouTube, thank you for asking that question. That's a great question. Can I cover freshman JUCO or how JUCO players should move with limited time? I mean, it's the same, pretty much the same with high school in a sense. You got to do some of the same things that high school kids have to do. Okay, you gotta whenever you like I shared at the beginning of this video, man. Whenever you get an opportunity, young lady or young man, you make the best of that opportunity. You make sure it's impactful. I don't care if it's one play, two plays, or three plays. Make it up in your mind now. You prepare yourself all week that when I get my one opportunity, right? No matter when it comes or how it comes, whether somebody gets hurt or not, whether it's at we getting killed or we're killing somebody, and I get some PT, playtime for those who don't know. And if you don't know, now you know. So you got to make sure that you prepare for your moment. Okay. Prepare for your moment. Okay. You have to do that. Hold on one second, guys. Let me make sure my battery's not going to die on my thing here. It's like it came loose. 1 second. Uh, all right. Sorry about that. So we're back in business. But yeah, so just make sure, Eric, that your opportunity, when you get it, is a very impactful opportunity, a play that you get, an opportunity that you get. So because you're not getting a lot of film, you're gonna have to make sure that the film that you do have is impactful and can really show what you're made of. And as far as you getting the word out, so when you have those impactful plays, no matter how big or how small or how many that you have, you're gonna have to do the same thing. You're gonna have to make sure that you reach and touch bases and follow all these coaches at the next level that you're trying to get to. You need to know the position coach, right? You need to know um, whether it's offense, the OC, or defense, the DC. You don't just hit up the head coach. You hit up the grad assistant, because the grad assistant is trying to make a name for themselves and finding good talent because they want to be a coach. They want to move up and make more money and have more opportunity in that sport, whatever it may be. So you got to find some of those GAs, and I mean grad assistants that are just getting into coaching. Some of the heads of scouting. I just made contact with Temple uh, director of scouting. That I follow a lot of coaches, college coaches, and they'll hit me up. Like I said, I'm with offense, defense for the high school, middle school kids. Um, but it's for anybody that's trying to get some help. And I'll do everything I can to help. And I follow a lot of these football coaches, and they follow me back. They DM me. The gentleman at Temple University, I shared on one of my podcasts not too long ago. You guys got to learn how to start watching some of these games, whatever sport you play, and some of these bad teams, they need help. And as soon as I see some of these bad teams, and those are going to be some of the first schools I write. And I'm going to even say to the coach, I see, you having a tough season this year, and I'm somebody you need to recruit to help turn your program around. I'm going to make a point and let them know, coach, I just saw y'all struggling, and I know I have what it takes to help you turn that program around. And so I'm so and so, so and so. This is my weight, height, strength, my SAT, ACT. You got to sell yourself and market yourself, but you got to be able to, uh, you got to bring the receipts, right? You got to be able to pay that bill, right? If you're gonna talk it, you better make sure you're doing everything you can to prepare and do what you need to do. So when it's time to pay that bill, right? That you pay that bill when they take a chance on you, or when they invite you to come to a camp, or they invite you on a trip, right? And when they look at your film, it's definitely eye catching, and they'll be wondering sometimes, like, man, why isn't this young man playing more? and make sure you have your attitude and everything in check with your coaches, that they can't say anything bad about you, right? You need to make sure nobody can't say anything bad about you, okay? And so parents, I'm just trying to encourage you. That's why I said share, this podcast. My viewership should be way up. I know, because I know across the country. I just moved here to North Carolina and seeing some of the same things. So this ain't just one area. This is across the country. There are a lot of good high school coaches out there doing a lot of good things with helping their young people in whatever sport they are. But there are just as many, if not more, that's not, right? And then it's not always about them not doing anything. Sometimes it's you as an athlete or a parent, when you're a young person. I'm getting on my nephew right now back home. That's a senior that's very talented. Kid can ball, but he's not doing a good job of promoting himself on his social media, following coaches, right? And you gotta get it done. You gotta do that's the part of the work you gotta do. You can't rely on your coach, okay, young athlete, right? You can't rely on mom and dad to do everything, okay? You gotta do your part, young person, right? To show that you love this game 24/7. If you whatever if you want something big out of the game, you gotta do something big for the game. You gotta put in big time work. You gotta put in big time effort, integrity, and character. If you want something big from it, if you want that scholarship, what are you doing? What are you willing to sacrifice? Can't go to all the parties, man. I can't do that. I need my rest. I need to be eating right. I need to be focused. There's gonna be a time where you're gonna be the life of the party because you're gonna be the man or you're gonna be the lady because you done made it, right? You got that education paid for. You walking across the stage, getting ready to get you a great job, whether it's at the pro level in your sport or being involved in sports. There's a lot of job opportunities, man, in sports that I wish I would have known about um, when I was younger, that I tell my kids about, right? If you don't follow my son, Jay Smith Jr., check him out. And my daughter-in-law, his wife, the real Kim, KYM, huge influence, content creator, right? As I said, I got an older son playing pro ball. I had the opportunity to follow like my older brother playing pro football. I did the same thing coming from D2. So if you make good film, so I hope that answers your question, Eric Thomas on YouTube. You know, if you do what you have to do and prepare yourself to be an impactful for whatever time you get on the in on the in your game, to be able to have some legitimate film, handle your business. Okay, that's what I would tell you. But you got to do the same thing that the high school kids are doing and reaching out and following coaches at the next level. If you're a junior college player, okay, you got to sell and market and promote yourself, right? But like I said, when I watch some of these games, I saw Temple play when they opened up the season. Man, they didn't look too great. I'm not saying these guys aren't putting work in. They're gonna have to jail, and they were one of the schools that have some of the biggest. I think they were one of the top schools with transfer in the transfer portal. Also, remember, schools are getting an increase in scholarships next year. Division 1 is going from 85 scholarships to 105 scholarships. Division 2, I think, is going from 35 or 36 scholarships to 55 or 56 scholarships. They're getting 20 scholarship boosts, right? Division 1 and Division 2 level. So FBS, FCS, and Division 2, they're all getting a 20 scholarship increase that the NCAA is going to allow them to have. Okay, because that was, I think, something that they came up with because of so much happening with the transfer portal that some high school kids may be missing opportunities. I think that was one of the uh, remedies that they were trying to help fix for some of the high school kids not to get missed. But hey, it's okay to go at a lower level, man, and transfer to a higher level. It's happening every day now, like clockwork. Okay, happening every day, and so sometimes that's not a bad thing. That you might need some more development, and that's cool. So if you got to go at a lower level and for a year or two, or play JUCO like you did and go at a higher level, then you do that. But for all of these coaches, DM them coaches on a regular basis, because a lot of times they think you might not be interested because you're not keeping in contact with them. Once they make contact with you and they start having, uh, they start, liking you or getting, you got their attention, right? And I think these days now, when you come with the transfer portal, I think they allow kids, but they're not on scholarship, but they allow some kids, they'll have workouts during the summer before some of the camps for high school kids. They'll have transfer portal kids coming and working out just before they do the summer camps. Um, and I know they did it in football. So when I took my nephews not this summer, it's just ended, but the summer before, um, there were some kids that were in the transfer portal working out before the high school kids started their camp, summer camp. So that's something that they're doing now. But I think the kid can't be on scholarship at a school to go work out at another school. So be real careful before you give up your scholarship and transfer somewhere. Okay. So that's pretty much what I just want to have a discussion tonight about. I went a little bit longer. I'm getting here and relax and finish watching some of this NFL. So I appreciate you guys. But like I said, follow Coach um, Smith 27 on IG and Love the Game 24/7 on IG. I'm on YouTube. Be sure you subscribe. Be sure you view. Be sure you share. Get the word out there about Coach Smith and Love the Game 24/7 podcast show to get great information. Um, you can also email me at love the 247game at gmail.com if you need some more help. Um, love the 247game at gmail.com. And so hit me up. You can DM me, follow me on Twitter. Uh, you can follow me on Twitter under ODR365NC. You can follow me there. You can also follow me on Love the Game 24/7 on Twitter. Um, so ODR365NC on Twitter or Love the Game 24/7 on Twitter. And follow me and DM me. Right. As I mentioned to you, I work with offense defense. We're helping kids with football and their recruiting. And we got that all-star game coming up December 26th through the 29th. Start nominating your kids that you think have enough ability to possibly play in that all-star game. Send your video footage to us for us to review, and we'll get back with you and let you know who's going to be able to play in these games. And then, like I said, we'll be starting our camps for you younger kids up to uh, kids that are going to be rising seniors to help them with their recruiting and helping them with techniques and things they should be doing, how they should be working out, how they should be eating, sleeping, all that good stuff. So I appreciate it, and like I said, parents, be careful about how you do things. Be sure that you talk to your young person and have them step up and do something that they're not comfortable with doing. Have them step up and go have conversations like I told that young man. But if you need some guidance, I have a recruiting service, like I said, with offense, defense, that I'd be glad and love to give you some guidance on that and help us be a part of your young athletes' recruiting success. That's what we want to do. And if you want more information about that, go out and Google offense, defense, football camps, and you'll get a lot of great information about what we do. So I appreciate you guys joining me this time. I'll be scheduling some more interviews with some other great folks, other coaches that were former players at the college and pro level. So look for more of that coming real soon, as I said, or on a regular basis. I've been doing a lot of that. You can see some of my previous interviews, and I got more coming for that. I don't always want you guys to hear from me. I want you to hear from other people that know what they're talking about as well, and giving you great information and insight on the recruiting process, because it can be very overwhelming and stressful, and we want to help you not be so overwhelmed or stressed out from that young athlete to the parents. So until next time, man, y'all have a blessed night, um, and take care of yourselves, um, and enjoy the rest of your weekend until as we get started on a new work week. Be safe. Blessings.